Hey guys, it's ArchieLuxury. ArchieLuxury from the ArchieLuxury channel, the Paul Pluta channel, and ArchieLuxury corporate. Guys, keep watching. Keep watching. I need the viewers. I need the viewers. I need the subs. I need it. Like, subscribe, and tell your friends. Tell your friends, whether you like them or hate them. Just tell them anyhow. ArchieLuxury on YouTube. Hey guys, ArchieLuxury on the ArchieLuxury channel. Today we're talking about Rolex, and today's question is, could Rolex ever lose top spot billing? Now what I mean by top spot billing, obviously Rolex is not the best watch in the world. You've got brands like Patek Philippe, you've got Lange, the Holy Trinity, but for sales volume, for desirability, for resale, retained resale value, they're pretty good. In fact, the head of Patek, Terry Stern, when asked, what brand do you admire most? Rolex, of course. Now the question is, could this ever change? We discussed in previous videos that Panerai had the mantle for sports divers in the late 90s, early 2000s. That was owned by Richemont Group. They stuffed it up through a number of factors. They stuffed it up by bringing out divers that weren't divers, 30-meter water resistant. They changed the screw. They cheapened. They tried to make it cheaper to produce whilst keeping the profits. They relying on ETA movements. They had a dud. They released this one which had a non-finished ETA movement. Absolute disaster. Then you had a number of factors. One too many limited editions, corporate greed, etc., etc. So the question is, could this happen to Rolex? And of course, anything is possible. Definitely, anything is possible. But I gotta tell you, you've got a number of variables which are very unique to Rolex. Let me tell you what those variables are. The first thing is, Rolex is not a normal business, a normal company. Rolex is owned by a charitable trust set up by Hans Willdorf because he didn't have kids. So instead of it being in a corporate structure, this is a board, a charitable trust board. So they don't have the same controls that a normal business or company would. So that's the first thing in their favor, I must say. The second thing is that Rolex controls so much of the supply chain in their watches. Unlike Panerai, which used a lot of ETA value movements, Rolex controls a lot of the supply. They even have their own gold foundry to make the gold to their standard in the mix of the gold. They also, of course, they're one of the largest industrial users of gold in Switzerland. They control so much, every part that they they've tried to buy every part. The movement maker, Aigner, they took that over. They make their own gold. They've gone heavily. They have got their own in-house movements, and this was seen with they were using the Zenith El Primero based movement in their Daytona from 1988. Then they went in-house. So they control so much of the supply. The third thing is that Rolex themselves the third thing which is working in their favor is they never They never varied from the oyster, waterproof. What is the one thing that allows so many Rolexes to survive? Let me tell you, it's the fact that they're in a waterproof case. Now, Omega, they've had a lot of expertise in waterproofing, but not all their Omegas were waterproof. Now, admittedly, with Rolex, they had the Cellini line. They weren't quite waterproof like an oyster. But for Rolex's, you could say, sheer luck, their oyster case became their most popular. The most models they sell are oysters, besides the Cellini line. So oyster, 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 waterproofing. So that simple fact. Now, Omega used to use the word Seamaster on watches that weren't terribly waterproof. In fact, my dad, in the 90s, he had a men's watch, very small, 30-something mil, 30 or 32 mil watch, quartz Seamaster, and I said, he's used to take it in the shower, and I said, he goes, oh, I take this in the shower all the time. I said, that doesn't mean it's waterproof. I said, you know, it doesn't have a screw-in crown. I'd be a bit worried about that. No, it's fine. Many years later, of course, the dial was completely shot from water getting in. Well, just a little bit of water getting in. And then, of course, it was a quartz, and it killed the movement, moisture in. But Rolex, waterproof, that is their credos, even in their non-professional line. Whereas Omega, they use the word Seamaster, and some of the Seamasters they put the name to weren't really Seamasters. They weren't even drizzle rain masters. They were. So that's one factor that has really helped. The fourth factor is their top dog. Rolex is top dog, and when you're the leader, you're got that edge. Previous leaders, they kind of were leaders because their market share was a lot different. If you look at the Panerai market, it was the diving, the sports watch enthusiast diver's watch. Whereas Rolex, their lead isn't just Rolex Submariner. Their lead is GMT. Rolex has market segments that their watch is the leader. And I mean, if you look back in time, you could say the the Omega Pro Prof was probably a better watch than the Sea Dweller. You could argue the Omega had probably the greatest manual wind complication in the Flightmaster. It was a GMT, it was a chronograph, it had a lot going for it. It was ugly, yes, I grant you that, but it had a lot. Rolex owns the segments in the sense that you think of, let's look at these segments. In the businessman's watch, leader of industry, day date, absolute leader of industry. That is a given. You look at the middle to upper middle managers, Datejust, Date or Oyster Perpetual. You look at divers, you've got the Submariners, you've got the Sea Dwellers, the Deep Seas, you've got some really good stuff there. You look at GMT watches, they own the GMT segment. They invented that watch for Pan Am, the GMT. You've also got a little bit of quirkiness in the Explorer, which is basically just a rehashed GMT with a fixed steel bezel. You think about sports chronographs, and this is amazing, they were the dogs. The Rolex Daytona was a dog. It was the dog. Well, guess what? Now they own that space. Probably the most desired sports watch in the world. If you don't consider the Patek Nautilus or the Aquanaut. Yeah, I think the Aquanaut and the Nautilus for as great they are, they're more super luxury. They're not kind of mainstream luxury. I think Patek is kind of a brand for the how would you put it? They're a brand for the super obsessed, the super rich. You know, they're kind of different spheres there. But Rolex themselves there, I've got to tell you, the fifth thing is the Chinese. The Chinese, they are crazy for Rolex. They love Rolex. Rolex, please. You're never in a point in time have you had a big population, suddenly so many of them move into the middle class. Now there's a lot of poor Chinese, believe you me. Your iPhone was probably put together by someone on $100 or $200 US a month. But there are so many, the population is so big, the rising middle classes and very rich people. If 1% are rich, 1% of China's population is a hell of a lot of buyers. So I've got to say, can Rolex, you lose this mantle? Of course, anyone could lose this mantle. However, the brand itself there is very, it's luck. In some ways, does Rolex deserve this success? No, they don't. Is it fair? No, there's no fairness. This is no fairness. But Rolex is in this position. And do I think they'll lose it? Now, it's very hard to see the future. I didn't think Panerai would really stuff things up so badly and lose their mantle in the 90s either. But they did. But I think Rolex has got a certain number of circumstances which will probably protect them. So I would say Rolex itself there, it looks like they will probably stay. The other thing is too, the number of collectors and the whole collecting community is massive compared to where it was in the early 2000s. Now, your average person who has a watch collection, they may have 5 to 10 watches. Go back 20 years ago, they'd have half of that. So the number of watches average collectors has definitely increased. So the future, from where I'm seeing, I don't know if they will lose their mantle. Will an up-and-comer contender come up? Very possibly. Could Omega come back? Unlikely, but possible. The real question is, does Rolex stuff it up? Will they shoot themselves in the foot? And this is what's happened in a lot of the previous leaders. They shot themselves in the foot. So let's wait and see. But I'd say Rolex is here to stay as top dog. I'm ArchieLuxury. Tell me what you think. Like, subscribe, tell your friends, and I will see you in the next one. Hi guys, ArchieLuxury. And who do I recommend in America? In America, who do I recommend for quality pre-owned wristwatches? DavidSW, DavidSW, DavidSW. Go to DavidSW.com. He is the best, the greatest pre-owned dealer in all of the United States of America. DavidSW, DavidSW, DavidSW. Hey guys, I've got some exciting promotion news for you. DavidSW, DavidSW, DavidSW. DavidSW's just sent me a press release. Archie, we just launched the new website this week and we have a sale going on now until Monday with $375 off. If you can give me a plug, that will be great. DavidSW, DavidSW, DavidSW. I gotta tell you guys, if you want to buy a Rolex, if you want to buy a luxury wristwatch, where would I go? If I was in America, North America, where would I go? There's only one place I would go. DavidSW, DavidSW, DavidSW. He is one of the most trusted names in the wristwatch market. Forget building a relationship with your AD. It ain't gonna work. It ain't gonna work. Forget licking the backside of your ADs, and you know, that's just wasted time. My best advice is, if you are looking for a Rolex, if you're looking for a Rolex from an honest, good business, go to DavidSW. I gotta tell you honestly, I would say DavidSW, DavidSW. Happy Thanksgiving from DavidSW. Save save $375. Cannot be used with any other promotion. Fair enough. Jewelry discount is 10% for the duration of the promotion. Expires midnight on the 30th of the 11th. DavidSW, go and check out the new website. Go and see the bargains they've got. Guys, seriously, if you want a Rolex, make it happen. Forget AD waiting lists. Forget all that nonsense. Go to DavidSW, DavidSW, DavidSW. DavidSW, America's. This is the dealer I would go to. Don't waste your time buying, trying to get kudos from the AD. Go and see DavidSW with $375 off your purchase. This sale will not last. DavidSW, check out the new website. Tell me what you think, guys. I want to know what you guys think. I want to hear it from you guys. Tell me what you think of the new look DavidSW website. I tell you what, it's feature-packed. It's got punch. I love the new video at the front. Man, DavidSW, DavidSW, DavidSW. I love you, DavidSW. I trust you 100%. I recommend you to countless people. I love you, DavidSW.
Hey guys, ArchieLuxury. Who do I recommend for watches in Brisbane and Sydney? Vintage Watch Co. That's correct. Vintage Watch Co. in Brisbane Arcade in Brisbane and the Strand Arcade in Sydney. Vintage Watch Co. Brisbane and Sydney. Ronnie, I've known him since the late 90s. Ronnie is a top bloke. Luke is a great guy. Vintage Watch Co. That is who I recommend in Australia. Check out Vintage Watch Co. and the guys' amazing range of watches. They also do service and repairs. Vintage Watch Co. That is where the pontiff goes. You know, some of my Pateks came from Vintage Watch Co. That's right, guys. Vintage Watch Co.